Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their edtech ideas into profitable businesses. Hi, Suraj. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being a part of the Knowledge Entrepreneur Show today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, man.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Suraj, here's my first question. It's a very light one, open-ended one. Just to know the person, Suraj, and then we
Sure.
can probably talk about what you do. Can you
Go
walk
ahead.
us through your journey leading up to the point when you started Gradvine?
Sure. This is probably going to be a longish answer than you would have expected, but here it is, right? So, um, typical Telugu South Indian sort of family, very set paths in terms of what you could do after 10th grade, not even after 12th grade. Right after 10th grade, you knew it was going to be either BPC, so biology, physics, chemistry, or an MPC, a math, physics, and chemistry. So the basic two routes that were available to you were engineering or medicine, right? Given the fact that a lot of family members had done engineering, that was the path that I was shoved into without too much thought. Like there wasn't a discussion that I had with my parents, neither did they initiate anything, neither did some of the other engineers in the family ever initiate the discussion around, okay, you're on the cusp of finishing 10th grade, what should you be? Typical MPC guy, went into engineering, a tier 2 engineering college, one of the best private institutions in Hyderabad, which is where I'm based out of. But overall, in the picture, in the grand scheme of things, not such a great place. Was probably average-ish, top 50, top 60 in the country. Um, because of my lower rank on the test that is required to get in, I could only get chemical engineering as a subject within the school that I wanted to go to, within the engineering college that I wanted to go to. So I'm a chemical engineer by degree, by profession, essentially. But I quickly understood that chemical engineering or even engineering was not something that I resonated with too much. And this is after I had gotten into engineering, right? So typical chemical engineering, graduated. In the third year of engineering, I very easily figured out that this was not for me. This was not a path that I wanted to go down. And I still wanted to be technical in nature, but I also started to look for other avenues. I started dabbling with a bunch of extracurricular activities, played a bunch of sports for both the college and the university, and then very quickly figured out that within chemical engineering, there's a small niche that I probably would have wanted to explore more. And this small niche was energy. Not the regular fossil fuel sort of stuff, but a lot more on renewables and stuff like that. So that was a small niche, and I was really good with numbers, so I wanted to marry both of these. And that's when the whole applications journey to get a graduate degree started. Went around to literally every single consulting firm, consultancy agent firm in Hyderabad, and quickly, very quickly, actually realized that none of them had ever given the GRE. None of them had ever taken any standardized tests. None of them had actually gone abroad to do their education. So my questions became, okay, all of the input that I got from them is you are not meant to go to good universities. I did not have a really good CG, so maybe that was one of the factors. But they said to my face that you are not really good enough to get to a really good university. You are better off applying to places that we have a tie up with, that we have some sort of a commission model with, right? That just didn't sit right with me. That was also the first year that I had actually gotten a PC and an internet connection at home. This was in my final year of undergrad. So I used that to the maximum. 6 months of thorough research, and I applied to 5, 6 universities all by myself. Got into a bunch of really good ones, and actually ended up going to Carnegie Mellon. So Carnegie Mellon happened right after engineering, so no work experience, nothing. And then it was a struggle there as well. First day that I go to CMU, my advisor pulls me up and asks me a bunch of questions around, hey, do you have this prerequisite? Have you done this course in your undergrad? Did you do this? Do you have this skill? And the answers to all of those were no, 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 no. Right? So that's when I was put into an undergraduate first year Excel basic class for a graduate student to come and sit with 18, 16 year olds, 17 year olds, and start with Excel again. That was pretty jarring. But yeah, I mean, after CMU, I think CMU was a turning point for me. Learned a lot, just breaks you down into a million pieces, but also gives you the power to attach all of them back. So that was a great learning for me at CMU. And yeah, rest after that, do you want me to go into WorkX and all of that, or this part is good enough for now?
It's fine, Suraj.
Okay.
I think you touched upon why Gradvine happened.
One of the reasons, yeah.
Yeah, one of the reasons. So, but just not that it was meant to be part of this podcast, but I just like to, take some time out to just talk to you about this because it might turn out to be useful to somebody. You said
Oh,
when you went to CMU, it's a very difficult thing, right?
yeah.
You just kind of lose yourself. It breaks you into a lot of pieces, and then can you share what exactly happens and how it really helped you in a
Yeah.
positive way?
Sure. I think a lot of engineers will resonate with what I'm going to say right now. In engineering school, specifically in India, there's a very popular phrase, one night batting. One night before the exam, you sit
Yeah,
down and go
yeah,
through previous 5 years question papers or whatever.
yeah,
That's absolutely more than enough to get through the exams and even probably get a first class and maybe even a distinction if you're smart enough about the prep.
right,
Engineering in India is all about cracking the exam rather than the learning process.
right.
Exactly the opposite happened for me at Carnegie Mellon. So
Mm,
at CMU, a bunch of financial constraints on me. I had to finish a 2 year degree in about a year, um, which meant that I had a course overload both my semesters.
right.
Given that course load, and given the fact that the process for each one of these courses is
Mm,
not an end exam, but a continuous evaluation of assignments that are about 40% of your grade,
right,
midterm paper that's about 30% of your grade, and finals, which is only maybe 20 or 30% of your grade,
right,
right? So you can't just sit one night before the exam and get a good grade. And
right.
grades are important. So you were forced into this culture of continuous learning, into making sure that every assignment every week was delivered on time and of the highest quality. You can't plagiarize. You can't take a senior's assignment, just erase their name, put in your name, and submit it as it is in an engineering college in India. You just can't do that.
Right.
So that was a shock. On top of that, the amount or the course load on me was very, very difficult. So that way, it was trial by fire. Like you either get through or you get out and drop out and come back to India. And
Right.
that wasn't an option for me given the decent sum of education loan that I'd taken up. So
Right.
that was just not an option.
Right.
So course load plus the amount of day in and day out work that you had to do. By second semester, I think I had stabilized a little bit, having gone through the entirety of first semester. But this is the biggest difference between what is taught in Indian universities versus what happens actually in the world, in the industry, as well as in graduate school.
Got it. How long did it take for you to kind of fall into that new process? Did you even, finally get
Yeah.
there? Did you catch up
You
with that system?
Absolutely. You finally get there, and this has been my advice to all the students that are going from India, and this is the basis of everything Gradvine, right? You've got to make sure that you do a lot of prep before you leave. You
Right.
also have to make sure that you are giving your 100% while you're there to academics and not to the whole life, fancy life in the US. This is probably the first time you're going there. Friday night parties are not going to happen because most of your assignment submissions are either going to be Thursday nights or Friday nights. So it's
Right.
not glamour or glitz and all of that. So
Right.
if you are going there as either an undergraduate or a graduate student, get ready for either 4 years or 2 years of really hard work, because that's what is going to get you your Friday nights later on once you've graduated. So all the glitz and the glamour that you see, probably not true. It's just social media being social media. But my biggest advice to folks that are going abroad for either an undergrad or a grad, prepare yourself for it. Get into the habit of continuous work. It doesn't have to be the magnitude of the work is not big, but it's just continuous work. You're improving week on week, week on week. There's concepts that you will learn that you'll put into practice, computational stuff that's happening, and it's a very challenging week on week sort of program that you get into. Takes about, I want to say, the first half of a semester. So if a semester is 5 months long, about 2.5 months to get used to it. But once you're used to it, it becomes pretty easy. You have a set schedule. You know when each course's assignment is due, and so you can plan accordingly. The other thing that Indians come with is jugaad. So 100% use your own, jugadu stuff here and there, cut corners. That's okay, but just make sure ethically, morally, you are doing the right things. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Got it, Suraj. Suraj, you spoke about a few points that kind of put you in a shock, right? Oh,
Mhm.
a lot of adjustments to happen. Maybe
Yeah.
a little negatively for
Yeah.
compared to what I mean. Idealistically, it's right, but given the way we've lived here and you go there, it takes a little bit of an adjustment. But what
Yeah.
are those things that kind of totally made you feel like, wow, this is amazing?
Yeah. This is a story I often tell. So, uh, give you a little bit of context. The flight to the US was my first flight ever.
Okay,
Till that time, I'd never gotten to the airport, let alone on a plane. And my first flight was to the US. So it's an international flight. You have to
international
go through
flight,
all of the
right?
immigration and a bunch of stuff. I was very fortunate to have a bunch of seniors that were traveling with me, and they had gone abroad a little bit. So that from that perspective, it was all okay. We get to New York City, and from New York City, there's a connecting to Pittsburgh. We take that Pittsburgh connection. All good, all great. We get into the taxi, we come to the apartment that we are staying in, and you have to cross the road. While you are crossing a road in India, you're looking left, you're looking right, you're looking straight, you are waving through traffic, you are almost avoiding death, right?
Yeah.
In the US, there's a button you press. That
Okay.
button activates a signal for people everywhere else to stop, and you can walk through. In places that button is not there, passengers or pedestrians are given right of way, which means that every car, if you are at an intersection, will come to a full halt till you cross the entirety of the road. That was my first introduction to US, right?
Right.
I was at this
Right.
intersection with a bunch of bags. I'm just standing there. I have no clue. I'm still in the Indian mode, right? I'm trying
Right.
to wade
Right.
through
Right.
traffic and all of that. And suddenly all of the cars come to a stop at the intersection. They're
Right.
not moving. And I'm
Right.
confused. I'm standing there. I have no idea why these fellows have stopped. And
Right.
then one of them honks at me, which is again unusual to hear in the US. He figures out, I think, that I was a noob to the country, and he signals me to go. And
Right.
that's when it clicked for me. This is a country which emphasizes on a lot of things that are not emphasized in India. Like
Right.
a lot of really good things. Culture is big. Taking care of oneself, both physically and mentally, that's huge in the country.
Right.
There's a culture of learning. Like
Right.
nobody is going to care about so much the grade that you're getting
Mhm.
as much as the quality of the assignment that you've submitted, the amount of research that you've done to submit that, the
Right.
quality of the papers that you're submitting or the projects that you're submitting. Nobody cares about the theoretical knowledge as much as they care about the computational. So, because my course was very computationally heavy, the kind of code that we wrote, the kind of algos that we used to solve particular problems. So, these are some of the things that were absolutely a 180 culture shock for the good. So, brilliant place to be. I'd advise everyone to go abroad at least once in their life. If just to live or to get a degree, it just changes your perspective on literally everything.
Great. So it's now Gradvine. So when did the idea of Gradvine come to you,
Hmm.
and how did you go about executing that?
Yeah. Sorry, my answers seem like a lot of context and then
No,
getting to the
please.
actual
That's
story.
exactly what I'd love. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
sure.
you're like
So
doing it amazing.
here's again context, right? um, I don't really come from a very financially well-to-do family, which meant that I had to fend for myself during my undergrad days. There
Right.
was no concept of pocket money or anything of that sort, and I had a bunch of really affluent friends that were able to go to the canteen, get stuff, eat really good stuff, and I was always jealous. My first job actually happened in second year of undergrad. So I've always been the kind of guy that hustled for money, for side gigs, for a bunch of really odd jobs here and there, anything that I could take on, right?
Right.
Second year of undergrad is when I got into this organization called Worldview Education Services. I did a lot of educational trainings for school children, model UN trainings, and a bunch of geopolitical awareness and all of that. That was great for me. And then in my third year or so, because of the skill set that I was building at the firm, a lot of my seniors approached me. Those seniors were looking to apply to grad schools. Those guys approached me and said, "Hey, I'm writing my statement of purpose, which is a document that's required to apply. Can you help me out with it?" And that's where it started. So I wrote in my third year of undergrad. I remember writing at least five or six statements of purpose for students that were applying who were my seniors.
Right.
And that's where the whole idea of, okay, maybe I can charge for this later on someday.
Right.
That whole idea started from there. Then 6 months of absolutely thorough research, which still is the backbone of everything that I do at Gradvine today. 6 months of great research into every single course possible, every single university that's out there, and back then leveraging Facebook. Unlike today, LinkedIn wasn't really there at that point in time. It was Facebook groups, folks that had seniors that had gone abroad, all of these guys back on Facebook. So leverage Facebook to a lot of to connect to a lot of people, and that's where the whole foundation was set in place. Though it was very subconscious, it wasn't really conscious towards starting a company later on.
Right.
Got into CMU, was very difficult financially, so to make ends meet, started helping juniors and their juniors with their application process.
Right.
That's where I started making a little bit of money. So I remember we used to charge about 5,000 Indian rupees for the entire applications process for one student. And every single one of them had gotten into a top 10 at that point. So all of this helped. I already had a full-time job, a side gig, and another side gig. So that was my schedule till one day Srikar, who's my co-founder, we've known each other since undergrad. So Srikar and I played for the badminton team in college. We hosted conferences, did a bunch of work together during undergrad, and we'd applied to universities at the same time. He'd gotten into Dartmouth, I'd gotten into CMU. We were really good friends, and we'd continue talking to each other through the entire journey as well. And that's where we came together and said, okay, we're making decent amount of money, it looks like, and there seems to be a huge void for accurate, unbiased, and on-the-ground information. Nobody actually is telling the students, don't go to XYZ university for this course because it's not good. Instead, apply to this other course at a different university because we're seeing exceptional employment opportunities come out there. So that's on-the-ground information.
Right.
Because of the network we'd built in, I remember the first mentor portal at Gradvine had 12 mentors, all close friends and associates, all in the best 12 universities of the US.
Right.
Tinker was at Dartmouth, I was at Carnegie Mellon, Shaurya, another one of our starting mentors, was at Columbia. Harsha was at UC Berkeley, Shodhan was at Berkeley. There are a bunch of folks at MIT. One of them was at Stanford. So we'd come together, 12, 13 of us. And we said, okay, we'll start helping students, but give them actual information and not just help them with the essay, the statement of purpose. Of course, the statement of purpose also gets benefited by the fact that we'd already cracked our own admits. But the biggest value add is with the information that we're able to give the students even before they get to that stage. So 2015 was when I graduated. 2016 is when we started to slowly help students, charge a little bit of money. Keep in mind, we had not incorporated formally. We had done nothing, no paperwork. That's when Srikar decided to move back to India. He handled the paperwork, set up the company, and hired our first intern in 2017. In 2017, we cracked something. We found service market fit. We had helped 100 students. We had taken about, I remember, if I remember right, 9,500 rupees from each one of them. Every single one of them had gotten into a top 20 US university. Every single one of them, top 100. 100 kids into a top 20, right? And that's when we knew that we were onto something, both in terms of the amount of advice and the value that we are adding, also in terms of maybe potentially being a really high revenue, high profit sort of a business. Once those two things clicked, next year is when I moved back. 2018 is when I moved back. Of course, I still have a bunch of side gigs and stuff like that, but Gradvine is the main full-time sort of commitment that I have from 2018 onwards. So Srikar and I have been running this. Today we have 700 plus mentors, And each year we do 1,000 plus students that are applying to either undergrad or to grad schools abroad. The statistic that I told you in the start, 100 students,
Yeah.
every single
Top
one
20
them to a top
universities.
20, that has slightly changed. 1,000 students, 98% of them top 50. So literally almost everyone goes to a top 50 university. But the number that I'm still proud of is a 52%. One in every two students goes to a top 10. And that's been something that we've
500 students are literally in the top
500
10.
students in the top 10. And when I say top 10, it's not any of the random ones, right? These are MIT, Stanford, Carnegie Mellon, Purdue, Georgia Tech, Berkeley. And these are names that
Yeah.
everyone would kill to have.
Yeah.
500 students every year to the top 10. And that's been the continuous quality metric that is very personal to the both of us. That's the
Right.
metric that we drive the entire organization. That's our North Star. So, yeah, long-winded answer, but that's how we started with Gradvine.
Not at all, not at all. It was, please continue answering in the same way, because
Sure.
I think that's, you said, so you started this whole helping people out after you finished your course that you went for.
Even before that, right? So even in undergrad, I was helping. Throughout the course, I needed money to just sustain myself. So I was helping a few folks there. But it was never in collaboration with someone else. It
Strictly,
wasn't
right. It's
correct.
just
It
you.
was never, it was just me just helping students, taking a little bit of money and trying to pay for my
Got
rent
it.
and other expenses. 2016 is when we got together and said, okay, let's
Right.
pool all of our resources.
Right.
Let's
Right.
get a bunch of other folks in. And then
Right.
let's try and scale this up a little bit. By
Right.
then, before that, I was probably doing 5 or 7 or 10 students. In 2016, we started numbers. 2017 is when we got to 100. And then from there on, it's just been growing.
Suraj, you said your first 100 students top 20, right?
Yeah.
Is it because of you helping them,
Yeah.
or were all the 100 students where, top quality, no matter
Yeah.
where they would have gone for help, they would have gotten into top 20?
Absolutely. So I would say it was a combination of both. They did come with really solid profiles. And mind you, none of the first 100 students were from any of the IITs or maybe one or two students from BITS, but none of the IITs. So
Right.
it's not like they're at the pinnacle of achievement in terms of their undergrad. They were from places like VIT, from my alma, CBIT in Hyderabad, from RV, from Manipal, which was one of our biggest campuses, and to date is one of the biggest campuses. So these are good private engineering colleges, but not the BITS or not the IITs or anything of that sort, right? So
Right.
for me to say that they would have gotten in irrespective might not be true, but they did come with very, very solid profiles, which made it easier for us to work with them.
Got it.
Two things that worked in our favor. I think we had credibility. We had done it ourselves.
Right.
We had helped a few students, so we had our initial testimonial set. So our MVP, so to speak, was in place. And second thing is we reached out to them. We said, hey, I am a CMU alumnus. I am going to talk to you for free and solve all your doubts. You only have to pay me if you want me to do any work for you.
Right. Right.
All of the advice is free, even to date. We have free consultations for everyone. There's no limit on that. All of the advice that you want, all of the questions that you have, absolutely free. In fact, we go out there, get all of these guys to give you webinars, seminars, one-on-one on Discord, everywhere. Only pay us when you need help with getting work done. Like
Right.
writing your essays, figuring out the best possible university course fit for you, all of that. For the
Right.
work we charge, yes, everything else is absolutely free. And that worked in our favor. Because, and this continues to this date, if Srikar or I or any of the other guys that are in the team right now talk to someone, it's an 80% conversion. And that number is unheard of in just in our segment as well as in the education sector overall. B2C, 80% conversions. Like if a person talks to me, there's an 80% probability that he will sign up for a service with us.
Right.
And that's testament to how good our advice is, how accurate our advice is, and how relevant it is to that person and how personalized it is to the student that is scheduling that free call. So yeah, I mean, we started off out of the 100 good profiles, a lot of them helped with a bunch of fine tuning, helped with tweaking that, helped with adding a lot of flair to it, identifying the right university and courses to apply to, and then put in a lot of hard work that first year
Yeah.
to scale.
No, of course. The question didn't come from, it just came from a
Yeah,
place
yeah,
that,
I understand. No worries.
if the same 100 students would have had to go to any other typical consultancy, they may not have ended up in the top 20
They
universities.
would have probably ended up at a top 50,
Top 50, right?
a top 20, maybe not, but more importantly, top 20 for the exact course that they wanted to
Right,
get into.
right,
Not
right,
something that the university had a tie-up with, that the consultant had a tie-up with.
right,
Not
right,
some irrelevant coursework. I
right.
still remember a bunch of guys that had done, again, for engineering guys, ECE, Electronics and Computational Engineering, and wanted to shift towards computer science. And we made that shift possible. No
Wow.
other
Okay.
consultant will be able to do that. No other consultant is going to say, okay, you can apply to CS. They will say, you can't apply to CS because you don't have prerequisites. We
Right,
were able to make those changes in. And
right.
each one of them, I'm still in touch with the first batch of students that have graduated. Most of them are PMs or like senior soft devs. Like one of them is a VP engineering at a startup. All of these guys are at the pinnacle sort of in their careers, in the kinds of companies and in the types of work that they're doing.
Right.
That added advantage, I don't think would have been there.
Yeah. Got it, Suraj. Yeah. No, this is exactly what I wanted to probably elicit from you.
Yeah.
Suraj, when you were sharing your experience about how you and Shrikar started off and then, the void that was there and stuff, you said the biases
Yeah.
that are there. Could you elaborate on what exactly you mean by
Yeah.
that?
Let me give you context, right?
Sure.
Again, I am a Telugu guy
Okay.
who's born somewhere else but brought up my entire life in Hyderabad.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at statistics, the number of students that go abroad, the highest majority, the highest percentage comes from the two Telugu states. Used to be one, split into two,
Yeah.
comes from the two Telugu states. The number of students that go from either Hyderabad, Vijayawada, Vizag, all of the bigger Guntur, all of these bigger cities in both my states is astronomical. Out of the 1 lakh students that go to the US every year, about 40,000
Wow.
go from both these two states,
Okay.
right? Which means that there is also a very big industry of agents or counselors that is helping these guys get to places. At the same time, out of these 40,000, if you take a look at the numbers, not more than 1,500 or 2,000 are going to the best of the best, the top 50s.
Suraj, sorry to interrupt. The
Yeah.
1 lakh you just is
To
it the
the
actual
US.
number or
Approximately about a lakh to the US.
wow? Okay, sorry.
A lakh,
Yeah,
lakh 20. Yeah. Depends on the year, but approximately a lakh go every year to the US.
got
Out
it.
of these, about 1,500, 40,000, I think 30 to 40,000 from the Telugu
The
states.
Telugu states.
Yeah, out of which about only 1,500, 2,000 make it to the top 50 universities, which is a shame.
Top
And
50.
top
Okay.
50, 50, only
Wow.
1,500,
Okay.
2,000 out of the 40K, right?
Okay.
So that's when we dug deeper a little bit. Also through our own experiences, right? When we were in final year of undergrad, we had roamed around the number of counselors. Every street has a counselor.
Right.
Every street has a study abroad agency.
Right.
Every single one of them has a set of partner universities. Places like Hawaiian Pacific, University of North Texas, Silicon Valley University, all of these places that you've never heard of in your life.
Right.
And if you look at the population makeup, the international student population makeup of these universities that have tie-ups, you will see that the majority of them are from the Telugu states.
Wow.
So
Okay.
our thesis was, okay, there's talent here. A bunch of folks seem to be going abroad. A lot of them seem to be going abroad. Why aren't they making it to the really good universities? What's stopping them? The
Right.
answer is there are gatekeepers. There are gatekeepers or these counselors that get their pay, that get their revenue, that earn their living from putting a student to a university that they're tied up with.
Right.
Let me give you an example. XYZ consultant out of Amirpet, which is the local head of all of the consulting
Yeah,
places
I've been there.
in Hyderabad, right? So these are like buildings and buildings. Every single floor has one room that's a study abroad consulting firm. They have tie-ups with at least 45, 50 universities.
Right.
per student that applies, they get about $200-300. That applies, mind you, not even gotten in. Per student that gets in and goes, each consulting firm on one student makes anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 US
Wow.
dollars.
Okay, that's a lot.
When there's such a big revenue driver that's coming from you putting a student to a university that you are tied up with, where is the incentive for you to put them in the right places that they deserve to go to? Where is
Right.
that incentive? That just doesn't exist. And so what we did is we flipped the model. We charge the student. We have zero tie-ups. We have no partnerships essentially with universities. We try and find the best possible place for that student to go to. We find the best fit for that student and not fit for the university which is paying us.
Right.
So we flipped that model, and that has worked wonders. Out of the 1,000 students that we serve every year or this past year, about, I want to say about 100, 150 are from Telugu states. Every single one of them has gotten into a top 10, top 20, right? So
Right.
out of the 2,000, we are contributing 150 to 200 people and looking to scale from here on in terms of absolutely high talent caliber guys
Right.
going to the right fit and
Right.
not wasting their time going to substandard universities just for the heck of going to the US.
Right.
So that was our biggest sort of incentive to start Gradvine, was the fact that there was a dearth of really accurate information and advice to students. There was also a dearth of unbiased counselors. Everyone else in the market, including the biggest ones that are out there, Leverage, Leap, all of these guys have now turned to a agency sort of model. Right? Every single one of them earns money when a particular student goes to a university that they are partnered.
Right.
Yeah.
These consultants that you said, who get paid $2,500 to $5,000, they don't charge the aspirants. Is it? The students are not
Very
charged
minimal,
by
right? Very minimal. They just take a token amount just for the sake of taking it. And in
just
some cases, they just give you a discount entirety. Like they give you a
Ah,
100% discount and say, I'm not going to charge you at all. Let me put you into a university that's partnered and make my money from there. But in some cases, yeah, they charge the student as well. There are some cases, there's some counselors that charge the student about 20, 25K, get
wow,
about $2,500 from the university, and still send them right there.
got it.
Because again, you have to understand money is a huge motivation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Of course.
Biggest motivator for any business, any entrepreneur to start a business. If it's not, then something's wrong. But money is right there. You're getting
Yeah,
so much amount of money.
yeah.
So it's very easy to compromise on your, even if you did start off as someone who wants to do the right
Who
thing,
wants to do it? Yeah.
it's very,
A
very
lot of money to
easy.
ignore.
Very, too much money to ignore.
Got it. And so is it that only these universities that are not sought after pay, right? Obviously, the top 20 are not going to bother paying anybody anything, right?
They get enough applications, right? Every
Right.
year for an MIT or a Carnegie Mellon for their computer science master's degree, which has a class size of about 50, they get 5,000 to 8,000 applications.
Wow. Okay.
They get it by themselves. Everyone wants to apply there and go there. So
Right.
there is no dearth of applications to the really good universities, to the top 20, even the top 50. Only ones that are beyond that are looking to survive, that don't really get too many international students. But here's the other thing, right? International students, on average, pay 3x the tuition fee that an American citizen would pay. 3x.
Wow. Okay.
Because
Okay.
international tuition at decent universities is anywhere between 25,000 US dollars all the way up to 45,000 US dollars per year.
Right.
For citizens or for US citizens and nationals, it's anywhere from 10,000 to 12,000 US dollars. So it's 3x almost.
3x. Right.
And so for the university, they want international students to come in, which
Right.
means that they are
Right.
incentivizing these agents and counselors in countries like India, China, in countries like Australia, in the Middle East, etc., in Southeast Asia. They are paying to get students to apply and subsequently come join their universities. Right?
Got it.
So yeah, big business.
Okay, and as far as Gradvine is concerned, do you filter the universities that you tie up with? Are universities also approaching you? How does it work? What is your
So
model,
we don't
Suraj?
have any formal tie-ups or partnerships with any university. We don't get any money from any university. That's
Okay,
completely out of the board. What we partner with is for webinars. For example, there's a course, Masters of Engineering Management, which is one of the most, it's like the younger cousin of an MBA, one of the most sought after courses for engineers who are looking to pivot into managerial degrees after the
right,
MBA.
right,
The MBA is very, very expensive.
right,
MEMs are half the cost, exactly similar sort of curricula, not that much depth. So this
right,
is very well suited for someone who has 2 years or less of work, 3 years of work. It's
right,
perfect degree for them if they're looking to move into managerial sort of degrees. MBAs are more for folks that have 4 years plus of work, right?
right,
For the engineering management degree, Dartmouth is where Srikar went. Columbia is where another one of our mentors went. Johns Hopkins is a really good university. Purdue is another university. All of these four, they come to us and they do webinars with us. So Seeker or I am moderating these sessions. We have about 300, 400 students joining in. We are
hmm,
essentially giving the university and the course, the department, a playground to publicize their course, to
right,
talk about what the degree is, what the benefits are, etc. And we have a very captive audience that seeks out this information. That's
right,
the extent of our partnerships with universities. There's no monetary partnerships at all. So we
right,
bring in the best. Carnegie Mellon's computer science program comes and does a webinar with us very, very frequently. There's Duke University's artificial intelligence program comes and does webinars with us. Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland's business school, all of these guys come partner with us to put their content out to our captive student audience, but there is no money exchanging hands, which means that we are completely unbiased. And
got
I
it,
think this is one of the things that is a core tenet of core principle of the firm. I don't see ourselves at any point in the future going the other way for the money and turning ourselves into an agency, even for one or two universities. I don't think it makes sense for us because our philosophy is very clear. Doing something 100% of the time is far easier than doing something 98% of the time. Once you've given in, you've given in. There is no way you can put a stop to that landslide once you have given in. So I don't see ourselves anytime in the near future going that agency route. Unless MIT decides to partner and wants us to be their agency, absolutely, absolutely willing to do that. If MIT or Carnegie Mellon or one of these really good ones come to us and say, hey, we are not getting enough admissions, can you help us out? Absolutely willing to do that. But none other. Doesn't work.
it's very interesting, Suraj, that you had to say all this because it's like as if you read my mind. Because my next question
Mm.
was this: not that I was going to ask you, okay, why aren't you tying up or something like that? But this is a
Yeah.
let's just imagine a situation, right? Let's say a
Yeah.
student who doesn't have what it takes to probably organically go apply and get into, right? What would you do if, let's say, you told something like what North Texas University, let's say, for example, let's say North Texas University is the only place the student will be accepted, just hypothetically, right? Or the likes.
Yeah.
And these are the guys who pay $2,500, $5,000.
Mm.
First question, will you help the student get into that type of a university? Or would you say, you know what, boss, you've got better things, you can do better alternatives?
Yeah.
Or if he's adamant, no, I need to have a degree from the US. And,
Mm.
if he happens to go choose North Texas, why would you let go of the $5,000?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm going to start off with the same quote that I said, right? It's easier to do something 100% of the time than to do
yeah,
98% of the time, right? We every year out of the 1,000, about 100, 150 students are like that. They just want a degree. They don't really care
right,
about which university, etc. They might care about the employment opportunities that any university will give them after they graduate, because they still have to pay back their education loans and all of that. In those cases, right, even in those cases, because of the fact that we don't have any partnerships or tie-ups, one of the things that we encourage the students to do is push above their weight, like punch above their weight. If you think in your head that you're only going to get into a University of North Texas, sure, we'll apply there. Again, we don't need to be partners with them. They are happy to get their application. You apply there. At the same time, you also apply to 4 or 5 other better universities that I'm
Better.
going to recommend to you.
Right.
And we will mold your profile. If you give me enough time, we will mold your profile to be suitable to get in there.
Right.
Now, there are two choices. You either get into a better university and you're happy, you're elated, you go there. You don't get in, and the only thing that you get in is University of North Texas. In that case, full marks for trying, right? You haven't shied away from,
Yeah.
not even trying in the first place, not taking a shot at it, which
Yeah.
is which is I think a epidemic of sort with Indian students particularly. They underestimate their professional and academic achievements to a degree that to at least not even apply to a tier of universities that's above them. They underestimate their capabilities so much. And this is something
Right.
that we've seen over the last 6, 7 years now. So 100% apply. If you get in, great. If not, you still have your backup. You can still go. I don't need to make money from them. You can still go to that underlying safety that you've set up for yourself. We will try and get you into something better. We
Right.
will try and push you to a much better university.
Right.
If a much better university, not in terms of brand value, is happening, then a much better university in terms of location. University
Right.
of North Texas, just to give you an example, is in Texas. It's in the middle of literally the desert and nothing surrounding it. Instead of that, why not go to a California State University? Same level, same chances of getting in, but is in San Jose. It's in the Bay Area. Chances
Right.
of you getting a job so much higher than at North Texas.
Yeah.
Why not go to IIT Chicago? It's in Chicago, South Center. It's in the center of the financial district, right?
Right.
So those are decisions that we help them make that
Got
no
it.
other counselor would if they're not unbiased.
Got it, Suraj. Suraj, coming back to that quote, right? It's easier to do
Mm.
something 100% than to do just 98% of the time.
Yeah,
So you're literally saying that, no matter what you do, if you do once, you're saying you're going to go
landslide. Yeah,
right.
because you've breached the ethical line that you've set up for yourself.
But how
Ah,
easy was it for you to take this decision? When did
yeah,
you
man.
take this decision?
Yeah. In the startup world or in general, one of the emotions that drives human beings to take certain decisions is FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Oh man, the number of sleepless nights and conversations that Srikar and I have had on two specific topics. One is, do we remain bootstrapped? Which, by the way, we are. We've not raised a single rupee from any investor across the board. Srikar and I own all of the company. Second is, do we turn into the agency model, even if it's a slight sliver of extra revenue coming in? These are two decisions that have kept us up all through the night, and I'll tell you reasons for this, right?
Right.
There have been counselors that have started out as unbiased guys. For example, Leverage started out as an unbiased Leverage. I take these examples because these are the biggest highest value companies in my sector. Leverage has whatever valuation been invested in heavily, venture capital backed. Leap also started out that way. All of these guys started out with the right sort of intentions.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, because of either investor pressure or something, I'm not going to comment on it, they switched. Now they don't even have a premium top 50 university admissions team.
Right.
And this is insider information, they've disbanded those teams. Like, you
Wow.
can't
Okay.
go to a Leverage and say, I want to go to a top 50, get me there, because they will start pitching to you only the tie-up universities that they have, because they've completely pivoted to a agency
Right.
type of a model, right?
Right.
So from that
Right.
perspective, these are, but at the same time, they're highly valued and very glamorous. LinkedIn is gung-ho about Leverage and Leap. Really good founders, ISB pedigree at Leverage, IITs at Leap, fantastic guys, right? It's just this FOMO, and we had to take a step back and look at where our strengths are. Honestly, if we decided to go into the agency business, there are 1,000 or 2,000 more already in that segment. So I don't
Right.
think we do well there. We would. It's not one of our strengths. Like, if you ask me to counsel a student that absolutely only wants to go to any university, any random place, I don't think I'm the right fit for them. So our
Right.
market, our niche is very, very clearly defined. We
Right.
only want to serve students that are really ambitious, that have put in the work to justify that ambition and want to go to good places and secure a
Right.
future for themselves. That becomes
Right.
our niche, and we are really good players of that niche. So the question for us was, do we remain a big fish in a small pond, or do we expand the pond only to be eaten by another bigger shark or whale? I think for
Right.
now we are comfortable where we are. We're looking to grow into other different verticals, etc. But we made the decision. We started off with the unbiased nature, and we've decided to continue that down that path. I think right after COVID, we were discussing this with a bunch of people. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And then finally we said no FOMO. We, instead of FOMO, we will do JOMO, joy of living in the moment. And we're like, we're okay, boss. I think we'll continue to talk to people one on one, continue to do good work in helping students with the best possible outcomes for them. And
Right.
that's been the center of everything that we do here. So yeah, we made
Awesome.
that decision right after COVID, and I don't think we've not even revisited it, which means that we are not really doubting it anymore. So we're okay for now.
That's amazing. I think this whole topic that you spoke about in the last few minutes is worth
Mm.
probably a talk at entrepreneurial courses, right?
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, because I was having FOMO talking to you about this, right? When you know
Yeah,
that
man.
you're getting $2,500 or five
Yeah,
thousand dollars for all the people that you put into a certain university.
yeah,
And also, when you spoke about giving free advice and then getting paid only, it reminded me of another company called Ditto Insurance.
yeah,
uh, Ditto Insurance is one insurance company that I love
yeah.
because you have any doubts about insurance.
You
Insurance
call
is
it.
such a muddled
Yeah,
industry. They keep fooling people. You just go
absolutely.
tweet or chat, they'll help you with all the information and won't
Yeah,
trouble you for the sale.
yeah,
So yeah, great, amazing.
yeah,
You would probably are the and I think because insurance is such a big world, more people would
yeah,
know Ditto more than Gradvine. So you're probably
absolutely.
the Ditto in the
At some point,
overseas
hopefully,
education.
hopefully at
I mean,
some
you
point.
already
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
It's just that people need to know about it. That's
yeah.
all I think. Great. Okay, cool. Suraj, now let's say one of the things that I wanted to ask you was you said you've spoken about so many mentors that are in your platform, right?
Mm,
What's the model like?
right.
Are these people volunteers or
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? The model has to be sustainable.
right?
The way we looked at the entire problem is lack of current, accurate, and unbiased advice. The
Right.
one of the operative word being current.
Current.
You can't have me, for example. I graduated 2015 from my graduate degree.
Right.
I am no longer qualified to give someone advice on what is happening in grad school as of 2022, 2023. I
Yeah.
am not the right person. So
Yeah.
current becomes a big operative word for us. What we do in order to gather current talent, first of all, the network effects. Right now, when we started off 12 mentors, first 3 years, 100 mentors, and then it ballooned from there. Ballooned because of two reasons. One, every single or most of, I want to say 98% of the students that go to the US go on an education loan, which means that they have to pay back loans, which means that if we are able to pay them enough amount of money, that becomes their interest payments every month. And
Mm,
that's how we cracked it. We
right.
said absolutely value for your time. Unfortunately, not in dollars just yet, because we
Right.
don't charge the students that much. We want to
Right.
keep both sides of the equation same.
Right.
If you decide to mentor with us, for every student, we will make sure that you get enough amount of money to cover interest payments for 1 or 2 months or 3 months, depends on the number of students you're able to take up. So
Got it.
that's the model for us. It's monetary for the mentors, it's charged for the students.
Students.
We are in between that facilitate the entire process, make sure the entire process is on track, pitch in with a bunch of advice for critical things that around university shortlisting, around essays, etc., which no one single mentor will have, which as an institution we've built up over the years. So those are things that we take care of internally, the process, making sure everything is on track, the final standardization of the essays, the final checks of the applications, all of that is in-house. The mentors help us with directly connecting to the students and helping them with their first few drafts of the documents that are required. And of course, all of the advice that's passed on between the student and the mentor. That way, we are able to keep it current. So you have current graduate student. If you are looking to go to Stanford, for example, you will have a current Stanford grad who's in Stanford right now, sitting down with you and talking to you.
Right.
You will have a current Carnegie Mellon computer science guy who's sitting down and talking to you, right? That's current. Unbiased, because there's no partnerships, there's nothing muddled in the waters.
Right.
Everything that you want is openly available.
Right.
And accurate, because you're directly hearing it from the horse's mouth. You are getting information straight from someone you aspire to be, or from someone in a program that you want to get. So those are the three tenets of everything that we do in terms of the advice at Gradvine.
Got it, Suraj. Suraj, in the domain that you are, right, I'm sure out of the 1,000 students that come to you, like you said, 150 of them just want to go to any university and all that.
Yeah.
I'm sure of all the services that are existing in this domain, you're doing a very niche one of, helping students with finding their universities.
Correct.
But most of the students, a lot of students who approach you may have a lot of gaps missing, where you'll have to tell them, no, you need to do this, you need to do that and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. Where probably some companies will think of, opening their own things to meet those also. They'll see business opportunities and stuff. And you'll have a lot of collaboration opportunities, right, at this point.
Yeah.
You will probably be referring a lot of people in this journey, right?
Yes.
How have you seen that aspect? I mean, have you seen any business opportunities there? Not about you starting off the services, but even on a revenue sharing model, maybe like a partnership model. What's that landscape like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are very clear on where our expertise lies. Our expertise lies in helping students that come with a certain prep. I'll call it prep, with a certain prep and profile, in helping them with the applications process in making sure that they make it to the best possible university. Right. Our expertise does not lie in test prep, which comes before, and education loans and financing and visa, which comes after. So we have partners that help us with both of these segments.
Oh, nice.
We are in the middle. We have a bunch of partners that we refer students to for test prep. We have a bunch of partners that we refer students to after they've gotten an admit for their education loan and financing needs. So we are very clear. We don't want to be a one-stop shop for everything. We don't want to be that. We want to be your partners in your applications process, mentors to help you achieve the best possible fit in terms of the university and the course, and then let experts take over from there on. And we make those referrals to our partners on a revenue sharing basis. Yeah.
Great. Suraj, another thing that I want to touch upon is sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah. Before I get back to that, Gradvine, from so far what I've heard from you, right? You speak about Gradvine and, all the things that you've spoken about. I see that, you are bootstrapped. That means you're going to be always growing organically. I don't think there's going to be like mass firing and stuff like that. They're not going to be on spurt of hire and stuff like that. I'm sure a lot of people, whoever have tuned into this, if they're looking for opportunities, they must be thinking, wow, this should be a nice place to work. So what are the opportunities that there are? Oh, great. Yeah. So walk us through what are the positions that are open and why people should probably come and work with Gradvine.
I'll answer the second question first because I have examples of folks that have done it. I'll give you the first example I'm going to give you is the head of my graduate student vertical. And maybe sometime later on, I'll talk about the different verticals that we have as well, because we are foraying into a bunch of different things and not just graduate admissions. But the current, and she just got promoted this year, the current head of graduate applications vertical is Akhila, who was a student of the second batch that we had. So she was a
Okay.
student with us. She signed up for our services, went to
Okay.
Purdue University, absolutely
Mhm.
fantastic top 10,
Okay.
came back to India, decided to move back to India
Wow.
and work with us. So she's been here for almost 3 years now.
Okay.
Started off as an account executive handling students and now
Mm-hmm.
traversed all the way to heading the entire vertical. That's
Right.
example number one. Every single employee that I have spends on average 2.5 years with us, which is great
Right.
amount of time for us because these are
Yep.
guys that are hungry, that are coming to do a dual sort of thing. They want to
Mm.
get into graduate school, which I help them with.
Okay.
They help us out with whatever function they are in. So every
Right.
single person that has come to Gradvine so far, we've seen Duke people who head on to Duke. So last year we had 3 employees. All 3 of them made it to Duke University. They are going to be going in August of this year.
Wow.
All three of
Okay.
them, and this is with our assistance, right?
Right.
This year we had 2 more employees that have gotten into ISB in Hyderabad for their MBA. One of them also got into ISB, also got into Cornell for their MBA. So
Okay.
she's going to Cornell. Another employee
Okay.
is going to ISB. These are
Right.
guys that have ISB's just started. So about a month ago, she quit and went back to ISB. I have high hopes of getting her back after ISB, but we'll see. But that's the biggest advantage that I see. We get guys that are hungry, that want to get their graduate degrees, spend 2 or 3 years with us, build their profile while helping out other students get into their dream universities. And at that 3 year period, we help them get into the best possible universities for their profile. Right now,
Right.
this year, I'm going to see 2 more guys that are preparing already, 2 more
Right.
guys that are going to be coming in and applying this year to get in next year. So that's a
Right.
continuous cycle of things that goes around. In terms of positions, business development is always open.
Right.
BD is a position that is perpetually open. As many people want to apply for it, I'm happy to talk to every single one of them and take as many. BD is always open. Apart from that, operations, which is making sure that every student's application process is on track, be it
Right.
coordinating with the mentors, making sure that conversations are happening properly, answering any student queries, all of that. So that's an operations executive. 2 positions for that are open. And some of the newer verticals that we are starting, we are open for stuff that has a fancy title but is essentially helping me figure out how to run it, set up the strategy, execution of the entire thing. It's called founder's office or whatever fancy titles you want to give it. But
Right.
someone who's young, straight out of undergrad, wanting to help me set up a new vertical within the company. So 2 of those positions are open as well. So yeah, bunch of open positions available on LinkedIn. Very, very active on LinkedIn. Please ping either Seeker or me. We'd be happy to discuss more about these roles and then happy to get referrals from you guys as well.
Sure. I hope the video or
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
podcast just spreads around. We're planning to kind of have, because a lot of the times, I speak with founders or, who are in the decision making process. And then, this could be a small little section that people can look forward to looking
Yeah.
at the podcast, right? I mean, job opportunities are always a thing. And with good companies, it's even more a bigger thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And these positions that you said, they're based
Yeah,
in
based out of the
office,
Hyderabad. After
Hyderabad.
COVID, I've lost the patience of working remotely, man. I am not someone that can sit on Slack every minute of the day and do that. I'm so much more comfortable with just walking out and talking to someone, figuring out what's going on, solve problems right there. So 100% based out of the office, no remote work.
But
Done. COVID.
students from across India, they don't have to come to Hyderabad offices.
They
Such they
do.
can. Oh, they have to come
Oh,
down. Is it
for counseling.
for
No.
counseling? Yeah.
So
No.
here's the thing, we are a completely online platform. The
Right.
mentors are in the US or
Right.
across the
Right.
world.
Right. Right. Right.
Students are across the world. So one of the things that I haven't talked about is out of the 1,000, about 200, 250 students are not from India. We have
Wow.
students coming
Okay.
in from 19 different countries. So
Wow.
Middle
Okay.
East, Southeast Asia, students who are in the US who are applying to US grad schools. So all of this happens, by the way,
Whoa.
because of the
Okay.
fact that we are completely online. Students don't need to come here for counseling. The staff has to be based out of the office.
Got it, Suraj. Suraj, the other question that I wanted to, touch upon, which I said I kind of lost my train of thought, was this. Uh, this was one of my first questions, but then I don't know. We just went to the conversation flow. See, you've seen the entire process, right? This whole applying to the US thing literally needs a company. It is kind of opened up an industry where
Yeah.
people can make a business idea out of it.
Yeah.
And in India, we don't have such a thing, right? Like, what is the core difference between the process
Hmm.
for applying for universities in the US, and in
Yeah.
what way is that helpful or advantageous compared to the style that's happening in
Yeah.
India?
Yeah. So it's a philosophical difference.
Okay,
Universities in the US want to build holistic classrooms.
right.
They are not looking for holistic guys to come in, which means that someone who's tried everything. No,
Okay.
they're looking to build a classroom which is holistic in nature, which means that
Mm-hmm.
every student that's coming in is an expert of something or the other, which
Mm-hmm.
and that diversity of expertise builds the holistic classroom. That's the
Right.
philosophy with the US university,
Mm-hmm.
which means that in order to cater to that philosophy,
Right.
they don't have a test based admission. It's not only a test based admission. They look at your scores, they look at your test scores, of course, they look at what work and what proof of work you come with.
Right.
They essentially want to know what you are an expert at and
Right.
at what level of expertise are you at, right? Once all of these boxes are checked, then they give you the admit. So there's an interview, there's an application where you will have to write essays. There's, of course, submission of the test scores and letters of recommendation from folks that you've worked with, and your resume, all of these. Indian universities, on the other hand, are not really looking for holistic or diversity. That's not one of their priorities, which
Right.
means that anyone and everyone that clears the cutoff on a particular test is welcome to join a university. Of course, this is changing, and so is our business. We are no longer just focused on US universities. There are a bunch of Indian universities that are doing absolutely fantastic work and moving to the holistic application review process. So apart from your core IITs, JEEs, and the BITS and all of these, there's a bunch of new age universities that have come up. Ashoka, Flame, Kriya in Sri City down south, OP Jindal, Azim Premji, and a bunch of really good places, right? All of these have the holistic application process. They're no longer just taking the test and getting the student in. They have a very similar process to that of the US universities, and we are helping kids get into these universities in India as well. So
Great. I was
that's
going to
the
ask you because
two
you
tips
said
of it.
one of them are going to go to the ISB, and then I was
That's
wondering
right.
if you helped them.
Absolutely,
Great.
yes, because ISB is also just like, apart from B schools that you get into through CAT, right?
Hmm.
ISB
Hmm.
takes the GMAT or the GRE
GMAT.
and has an
Right.
entire applications process. So they have the
Right.
entire essays process, they have the entire interview process, everything. By the way, this time out of a class of 800, I think we have about 40 or 45 students that have gotten into ISB through Gradvine. 800, that includes Hyderabad and Mohali.
Got it.
About 40, 45 students have gotten in through Gradvine. And then another program that we are seeing trending upwards is an MBA from Masters Union. Another really solid program that seems to be up and coming. Founder is a Stanford GSB, so he knows what he's talking about. Has a bunch of actual practitioners as faculty. So that's another thread that we are pulling on, but more so at the undergraduate level. 12th graders looking to go to undergrad, that's a segment that's growing.
Right.
We help about 150, 200 people that are going abroad for their undergrad. We've started to build a service for folks that are wanting to go to these new age liberal arts universities as well. So the Ashokas and the others that I said, that's
Got it.
also another vertical that we're building out. And there's a third vertical which I am most excited about. I'll talk to you about that in just a little bit.
I was going to come back to that, but anyway, great that you're going to talk about it yourself. I want to ask you this question. Most of your students, if I ask you how you get, are they through word of mouth and reference?
89%.
this is
89%
this is what I
referral rate.
hate about businesses like yours, right? Because most of them bank on sales and marketing, And one of the things that I'd like to pick people's brain on the podcast is, what is the new method of sales and marketing that you do? Throw some light, people. I'm bored of people who say, no, I get it from referrals, word of mouth, because that is organic. Anybody knows that. If you do a good, body of work, people are going to come. But anyway, 11%. What are the
I'll tell you
sales
where
and
that
marketing
11%
practices?
comes there as well.
Okay.
Over the last 6 years,
Right.
the amount of money that we have spent on social media marketing, running ads and stuff like that is a grand total of zero. We've not spent a single rupee on any experiments, nothing. Like we don't want to get into that, right?
Right.
Where do these guys come from? 89% referral rates, not just from students who've taken up our service the last year, but we have 6 years of history now.
Right.
So anyone who's
It's
taken it up in the last
effect.
6 years, it's compounding now. Right?
Yeah.
The 11%, we have great brand presence on Quora. So Srikar and I are top viewed writers on Quora. We've written our heart out. We've put in everything that you need to know for free on there.
Okay.
Everything. Like I shouldn't be saying this, but if you're a smart guy, you attend 2 of our webinars, go through all of our Quora answers. That's everything you need to know about the entire applications process, and you can do it yourself.
Right.
Only when there's some difficulty with writing or with identifying someone to talk to, getting in touch with them, those are the only things that we charge for. Everything is out there for free. Every month we do 2 webinars free.
Okay.
Attendance 350 plus.
Wow.
Every webinar. And unique about 100.
And you don't market for these webinars, come out and no ads and stuff. It's just social media.
There's no ads, so absolutely zero ads. So they sign up, and we have a really good funnel to remind them that they have signed up and to give them all of the information necessary to get them to the call. We actually even put in resources to call them one day before the webinar, call all of the 350 registrars to get them to the webinar. So we have that process very, very streamlined. No money. Again, a lot of time, but absolutely free, absolutely human intensive. I have an entire team operation teams that make sure that every message goes to students that have signed up and all of that, but nothing paid. We do 2 of these every month, one speaker, one me, across the board. Round tables. So we've just finished our engineering management roundtable. We had about close to 500 registrations for that and about 350 attendees. This is people from Columbia. So one mentor from Columbia, from Dartmouth, from Stanford, from Purdue. 4 guys along with Srikar. This is a roundtable. We are doing one for MBAs very, very soon, this month, if I'm not mistaken with the dates. I will do one for computer science later on. I will do one for data science later on. And so across the board, content strategy is huge. We put out as much free content. Second is community. We have a thriving Discord where people are joining, a bunch of questions. We have all of our mentors joining there, asking a bunch of questions and all of that. Third is referrals. Those are our only 3 sources. We write on LinkedIn. We get a lot of eyeballs on LinkedIn and all of that, but that's it. One of the bigger ones is we sponsor fests in university campuses, the big university campuses. For example, Manipal is one. BITS Hyderabad is one. Mahindra University in Hyderabad is one. CBIT, of course. VIT, we will go there pretty soon. And as part of the sponsorship, one of the things is free session. And thousands of guys come fill the auditoriums. We are able to do a really absolutely terrific session and give them the free consultation link. About 10-12% of my customers come through there. So yeah, those are my channels of customer acquisition.
Are you guys profitable?
We've been profitable from month 1.
Great. Just for clarification, because
right?
also it's so organic. It'll be really,
PAT.
People will be wondering, okay, these guys are doing a lot of things for free. Are these guys even making money?
And not just making money, right? We are 40% PAT. Profit after tax is 40%. That number is unheard of in the industry.
Yeah.
That number is somewhere. And costs for students are also not that high. So right now we are priced at 42,990.
Right.
No limit on the number of universities, which by the way, some of the counselors will have. They'll say, I will help you only with 5 universities, 7 universities. None of that bullcrap. As many countries as you want to apply to, as many conversations you need, as much amount of time it takes for us to perfect the documents. 42,990, one package. There's no very, very transparent prices. There's nothing else. There
Got
are no
it.
discounts. There's nothing else. Entirety of the service for one price for everyone, irrespective of where you're signing from.
Awesome. And anybody who applies, nobody's gone back
Out of the
unadmitted.
out of the 1,000 students, 98% got into a top 50. Everyone else has an admit. Everybody has an admit. Just
Wonderful.
not the top 50. The 2% did not make it to the top 50.
Awesome. Suraj, I think I've covered all the questions pretty much. Probably just one thing from an entrepreneur's perspective, from an entrepreneurial point of
Yeah,
view, is one of the topics that's evergreen is being solo or going with a co-founder and stuff. I
yeah,
understand that you and Shrikar are the two people that are co-founders here, right?
yeah.
So how did you, if you can just share, how did that happen? Because it's one of the most important things, right? Who you choose as a co-founder. Did you choose
Absolutely.
Shrikar or Shrikar chose you? How did that
Yeah.
go about?
Again, context. Both of us are same year engineering. We came into the university. He's a mechanical engineer. I'm a chemical engineer. First year of undergrad is a very critical period. First year of undergrad is where you're forming your groups.
Right, right,
I had the opportunity to literally do everything that was available in college. I played at a high level, at probably a semi-pro level. Seeker played badminton at a semi-pro level. That's where we met on court. We were doubles partners for a long time.
Mm,
We also had the opportunity to run one of the biggest conferences, Model UN conferences for our college for 2 years straight, and then
right.
groom the third year team as well, the third team when we were in our final year. And so we had that experience. He was number one, I was number two. As I was running the ops, he was always into marketing and making sure the big picture, the brand, and all of that takes in. We are also very complementary personalities.
Right.
He is someone who can only think about the big picture. Like he's a
Mm,
fantastic guy thinking about the big picture. 5 years down the line, what should the vision be? What should the ideals be? What are avenues we should explore, etc. Because of certain of my limitations or the background that I come from, either financially or whatever, I am not able to think that big.
right.
And I am a very detailed sort of guy. I know where each student's, in fact, if you ask me some student's profile from 2 years ago, I will remember the exact statistics where he got in all of his admits and all of that, right?
Right.
So I am good with the details. I know where each student is stuck, and I know how to solve for those problems, plus the network which I bring in. Very complementary personalities. We only decided to start together after we had worked together in some or the other form, either on court as badminton players or
Right.
as conferences, etc. After a period of 4 or 5 years, that's when we said, okay, this is a good fit for us. I like the way you work. I appreciate the things that you bring to the table.
Right.
There's respect for us in terms of certain decision making. I
Right.
don't interfere in some of the big picture sort of stuff. I have, because I'm not great at that. And I recognize some of the things that I'm not great at. He recognizes that I should be left alone specifically to operations. Like he
Right.
doesn't interfere in a lot of that kind of stuff. And so it's a very complementary personalities that have come together. And we were only able to figure that we were complementary in nature after having done a bunch of work together,
Right.
either on
Right.
court or during these conferences or during our own applications process, etc. That's when we said, okay, it makes sense for us. We work together. It's a good fit for the both of us. Let's get started. That's how the decision came about.
Awesome. Suraj, can you talk to us about the other vertical you said you're going to come back to later?
This is the one that's very, very close to my heart, right? So remember in the introduction, I said typical 10th grader, there are two options,
Yeah,
MPC,
yeah,
BIPC.
yeah.
The biggest thing that has not changed from my father's time,
Hmm.
from my cousin's time, my time, to right now, someone who's graduating 10th grade, is still the perception that there are only two choices.
Right.
Still the same perception. And that's what I want to solve for. I want to sit down with every single 10th grader in the country, tell them that these are not the only two choices. Even if these are the choices you want to go after, what are potential careers that are possible because of that? So the idea is to go at it from a what are you interested in, and not from a psychometric test. all of these schools that are out there give students a test that is right after the physical education period. So no kid is actually focused on the test. They're just filling out random stuff.
Right.
And that test is determining what they should do as a career, which is absurd.
Yeah.
What we are focused on and what I want to do, and this is the vision for us. Talk to every single 10th grader that's out there and parents.
Mm-hmm.
Help them understand that it's not just MPC and BIPC. There's a bunch of other stuff.
Right.
Even within PCM or BPC, what are careers that are possible? What are interests that you have? And what does the timeline look like for you to get there?
Right.
What are potential careers? What courses or undergraduate majors do you need to do to get to those careers? What do you need to do now to build your profile to get into really good undergraduate institutions? What are your interests? That entire thing is the problem I want to solve for, and that's the newest vertical that we have at Gradvine. We've just signed 2 schools that we are going to be the official career counselors for. We are not going to do psychometric tests. We're not going to do any of that crap. Every single student is going to sit down with our career counselors, have 3-4 conversations each, along with a project in 2 or 3 interest areas that they have determined over a timeline of 6 months for them to dive deeper and understand if this is what I want to do or not. Once they have found that understanding, a detailed timeline for them to that specifies this is what you need to do right now, this is what you need to do a year later, this is what prep is required, these are all of your options either abroad or in India in terms of universities and courses. This is the entire universe. All of the information is now available to you. You are much more aware. Now make the decision instead of making the decision just between BPC and MPC and not even within those knowing what you can achieve 3-4 years down the line. So that's the newest vertical that we have started last year. This year, growth phase for us. So if anyone out there is interested in talking, 10th grader, 9th grader, 11th grader as well, interested in talking to us, it's free, absolutely free. Schedule your free consultation on the website. Happy to sit down with you one-on-one and talk. And if there are any school owners or administrators, happy to have that call and just come on campus, just give you as much free information as you need, as you want, and then maybe see if we can monetize it at some point in time. But right now, completely free.
This is pretty awesome, because one of the talking points for me after a lot of the podcasts that I did in the past was this one question, right? I mean, what is the exact age group at which you decide, what happens to be that turning point in everybody's life? And I covered a lot of aspects with a lot of people because I was talking to a lot of coaches, life coaches. And then I happened to talk to another founder from the SaaS industry. His company is Simply Coach. He was a coach, but then he turned a SaaS founder.
Nice.
His name is Ram Gopalan, right? Whatever you said only kind of remembered this conversation with me. And he said, and he had changed careers thrice. He's he's a senior, member, like, maybe some late 40s, maybe. He's in 1989, he did something from Bits Pilani and that sort of a guy, right? I am that sort of a guy. And then he did something in the tech world, and then for a decade, and then for another decade, he did digital marketing. That is 2000 to 2010, and then 2011, he just became a coach. And I was asking him, sir, it's amazing what you've done, but how easy or difficult was the transition? And for him, it was not a big deal, right? For some people, it's not. And you can never bring out the blacks and whites of how they did it. They can only share what they feel. And then I was asking him, how do people figure out what they, whatever they do, they love it? And then, this whole conversation went back. And then, some people said, look, it's very important to explore from as young as, when you're in the school. And if you don't explore, obviously you're going to be left with science or commerce or whatever it is. And then you're stuck. And then you realize after your 30s, this is what I want to do.
Absolutely.
So the reason I told you this entire story was whatever you said, I think it's one of the best things that can happen to humanity. Forget India or any country. For humanity on the whole, I think awareness when you're 16, 15 years old can change people's lives. At least 10 years, 15 years later, they might be cleaning streets. At
Yeah,
least they'll know that they tried and that is probably what they want to do.
absolutely. Yeah,
They
absolutely.
shouldn't feel like they didn't have a choice. And oh, if somebody would have told me when I was in 16 years old.
And that's exactly the emotion that we are trying to negate, right? You
Right,
walk into any room today. Let's say there's a hotel room with about 100 people attending a conference. You ask one question: how many in India? I'm talking. How many of you are engineers? I
right.
bet more than 70% are going to be engineers, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Of
yeah,
our age groups,
yeah.
70% engineers, and then you follow that up by asking them another question: how many of you knew what engineering was before getting into engineering?
Yeah,
Zero. The
yeah,
number of people that have thought about it is zero. And
yeah.
that's the emotion that I want to negate. You shouldn't take a decision from a place of not having enough information.
Yes,
Take that
yes,
decision. You know everything about engineering and then take up engineering, absolutely great. You
yeah,
shouldn't take up engineering without knowing what else is out there or without knowing what engineering is in the first place, right? I'm an
yeah.
engineer. If given the choice, would I have taken up engineering? Absolutely not.
No,
Like
yeah,
maybe like 70-80% of the people that took up engineering just for the sake of it, right? And that's
yes,
the problem I want to solve for.
yeah,
Literally,
yeah.
the vision at this point in time is to talk to every single 10th grader in the country. That's about 11 million CBSE, just stats, 11 million, 10 to 11 million
Wow.
students that take up the exam and graduate 10th class every year. And that's the number of people. That's my market, targetable market, or whatever they call it, TAM, total addressable market, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
my TAM. That's the market that I want to go after. So far in Gradvine's journey, nothing has ever been about scale.
Right,
We've always operated in niches.
right.
Graduate admissions, graduate admissions abroad, graduate admissions in India, undergraduate admissions abroad, undergraduate admissions in India. This is the truly scalable service, or if we can convert it into a product at some point in time, this is our scale.
Right,
So even though it's been about, I don't know, 5-6 years since we started Gradvine, the Gradvine story is just getting started now,
right.
with the enormous potential for us to scale in the so-called career guidance or career counseling sort of segment. There's no big player. There's not a single big player that does it without psychometric tests. I understand, but we were
Yep,
part of,
yep.
Speaker and I were part of a big study that was at both Harvard and Penn education, which derails the entire concept of psychometric tests. So we're completely against it. And so
Right.
that's the journey that we want to get started on now. So yeah, exciting stuff up
It
for us.
is. It is exciting as well
See
as
how it goes.
it'll definitely change a lot of people's lives.
Yeah,
I think the
hopefully.
impact
Yeah,
it'll have will be massive because these are underrated moments in everybody's life. They just let it slip somewhere.
yeah. They just take the decision, just go without thinking
Yeah,
about it.
just so much conditioning happening and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, great. One thing before we wrap up, Suraj. Collaborations, right? Because a lot of people who might be listening to this would be trainers,
yeah,
test prep coaches, individual test prep coaches, and all. Like, if there's anything that you'd want to address to
yeah, man.
people in terms of collaboration, please.
Look, our another one of our core philosophies, and as someone who's I'd like to think of myself as a dabbler in philosophy. I read a little bit of philosophy just to get out of existential life crises, etc. One of the core philosophies we've set up is one person will not know everything about everything. There is no way,
Right, right,
absolutely no way. And that's why we are very comfortable operating in our small niches in small parts of the internet. But one of the things that we want is we want to talk to experts. We
right.
want to collaborate with folks that are doing absolutely terrific work in their own fields that are
Right,
complementary to ours or even parallel to ours, right? For example, I
right.
was just coming off of a conversation with another fantastic BITS Pilani alum, University of Pennsylvania alum, that runs the education financing piece. It's a company called Gradvine. Happy to make introduction if you want to get him on the podcast for another episode. But
Sure, sure, please.
absolutely fantastic guy, man. And he sits down with both Srikar and I and gives us really sage advice. He's probably 2 or 3 business cycles ahead of us. We
Okay,
become a lead pool for them. And he
Okay.
in turn channels some of that and tells me, Suraj, we're parallel businesses. Think about how we can collaborate better and stuff like that, right? And he
Right.
drives that conversation. Happy to collaborate with anybody who's doing absolutely fantastic work in any part of the entire segment that we are servicing,
Right.
including, and I'm going to spell this out, including starting from test prep, profile building, even application material like counselors, etc. Because we are building a bunch of products and services of our own that can be shared amongst each other.
Right.
um, Universities that want to come and sort of take my platform to address a bunch of captive audience, absolutely open to that. Someone who's helping out with accommodation, there's a mentor of ours that was a
Hmm.
student first, mentor later, is now a startup founder in the student accommodation services. So
Wow.
Stavya
Okay.
Bhatia was a student, went to TU Delft through us, came
Right.
back on as a mentor, started Room Bay, which is another company that I want to give a shout out to that helps students get accommodation
Right.
once they are looking to go. So around that, financing, so education loans, scholarships, anything of that sort, absolutely something that we are willing to completely open to. We'll figure out how to work that out. It will come from the highest echelons of this company. That's built into our DNA. We will work with you. We will make sure something works out in terms of the finances, all of that, and absolutely willing to collaborate with guys that are solving any part of this entire student journey. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me anywhere. Email ID. I'm sure you'll put that up in the description and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
We will. We will surely.
Um, Website. You want to pick me on LinkedIn? Anywhere. Absolutely open to that.
Awesome. Suraj, thank you so much. It was truly wonderful. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And,
Absolutely.
I wish you all the very best. And this is one of the best things that I've heard about overseas
Mhm.
education. Trust me, because I have people that work with a lot of overseas consultants and I hear
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
This was nothing like what I've heard before. So, as I said, if I could only think of Ditto Insurance,
Yeah.
how
Yeah. That's
Gradvine comes
that's high
across to me.
praise. We still have a
Uh,
long way to get there, but yeah, that's high praise. I'll take that for now. Thanks so much, man.
Great.